Many years ago, I was invited to do a wedding for a student of mine who had graduated from college. I think he's a grandfather now. That's how long ago it was. So we had a rehearsal on a Thursday night, and his brothers were going to be the altar boys. And after we got done the rehearsal, I said to the boys, make sure you're here by 6:30 tomorrow night, Friday night. And they laughed at me. So I went home, and next night I go back and I pull up to the church, and there's cars all over the neighborhood. It's hard to find a parking place. And I went into the back of the church, and there was my bride and groom up at the altar being married. Because I had the time wrong. I thought it was a 7 o'clock wedding, and it was a 6 o'clock wedding. And the boys laughed at me because they thought I was joking. I have never forgotten the embarrassment I have felt at that time, all these years later. So we make mistakes. Some of them we forget about, others last forever. Our ancestors in the faith made mistakes. They thought, and for 2 or 3 generations they thought, after Jesus, that he was coming back quickly. As he promised, he was coming back. But they were wrong. Obviously. But I'm so happy they were wrong. Because if they weren't wrong, I wouldn't be here, and neither would you. In a few weeks, we will celebrate our remembrance of the first coming of God among us in visible form, in the person of Jesus of Nazareth. Early Advent, though, we're not thinking about that. We're thinking about and anticipating and remembering the promise of Jesus that he will return at a time we do not know, at a time our ancestors in the faith thought they knew, but had it all wrong. But perhaps we forget, as we celebrate these 2 comings of God among us visibly, that the most significant and the time we need to celebrate and remember the most is the coming of God among us visibly now, today. We do that in many ways. We're doing it every Sunday morning when we celebrate his visible presence in a sacrament, because the sacrament is visible. It's experiential. But as Jesus once came in the flesh, as God came in the person of Jesus in the flesh, he comes to us every day, not in the sacrament of the altar, for few of us have the privilege of celebrating the sacrament every day, but in the sacrament of other people. What we see and experience each day in other human beings is God. Because the Christ who came at Bethlehem in the flesh, visibly, still is in the world invisibly, sacramentally visibly, in other people. That's what the body of Christ means. It doesn't just mean the sacrament of the altar. It means the body of Christ that Paul talks about, of which Christ is the head and people are the members. And so the experience of the visible God, the God who made himself visible because of our inability to comprehend him in his true invisibility, is the person of Jesus, perduring in the world in every other person. When God became visible in the world in the person of Jesus centuries ago for the first time, as you know, people received him differently. That at the first coming, people had different responses to the Christ. And the difference that we have, the differences that we have in the way we receive the Christ will determine how we are received when he comes again. That's why we not only expect the Lord to come in glory, which he certainly will, but as he promised, he will come in judgment. Because the way we are received by him, the way we are received by his Father, will be determined by the way we have received each other. As long as you do something to the least of my brothers and sisters, you have done it to me. You have done it to God. And so this whole first part of Advent is meant to recall us to where we are in the scheme of time, where we are in history. We are not the people who experience God in the person of Jesus visibly, but we are the people who expect him to come again. And we are the people who must experience his coming on a daily basis in each other. That's why Paul said to his people, when he finally convinced them that they had gotten the times wrong, to stay alert, to be watchful. Because if we're not alert and we're not watchful, we will not see God in the disguises that our neighbors present us with. Because let's face it, a lot of the people we encounter day by day are not godly in appearance, but they are godly in their being, and they are godly in their essence. And that's why Advent is such an important time for us to stop and to be aware that the most important time in history is now. This moment, this day, these people who make up my life. That's the determining factor of Christ's return and how we will be received when he comes again.